sure if there are any topics that are as near and dear to the hearts of project managers, despite the fact that it's also violated hundreds of times. Change management. So let's do just a brief introduction of change management in projects. It's actually pretty straightforward. The process, I mean. What's most interesting, though, is why it relates so much to your leadership. You can't go through any kind of discussion of change management without acknowledging that some people just believe that they shouldn't have to follow processes. I don't agree. You probably don't agree. And yet, every single one of us has also, on occasion, thought to ourselves, why do I have to do this? Well, that's pretty much the same thought process that people who subvert change management are often thinking. And then there's the aspect of change management in some people's minds. It's not really a change. They just didn't realize you didn't know it already. But to you, it represents a change, sometimes insignificant, trifling, sometimes a big change that's going to affect the budget, the schedule. It's going to affect all sorts of things. So think about it. Why is it that people who are flat out cranky about change management in projects, well, why is it that they're cranky? Because the process itself is pretty straightforward and should be part of your team agreement, your team charter. If you haven't built a team charter, at a very high level, let's just call them ground rules, agreements that we make. You see, the project charter talks about what it is we're doing and why it's so important for the organization. But the team charter speaks to something else entirely. It speaks to how we're going to treat each other and how we're going to behave during the entire process of executing the project. Like, oh, I don't know, everybody agreeing to abide by the change management process? Because that's the secret power of a team charter. Nothing can be in the team charter that people didn't agree to. So, in this brief introduction of change management, let me outline a few of the reasons that the process is so important. And I'm going to do this by telling you a little bit of a story of how, as a very young project manager, I thought, well, it's not as if we don't have tons and tons of processes already. Honestly, everybody is funneling every conversation through me. So I'm not going to worry about having sort of, you know, a change management process. I've got the change log. Everything's going into the change log. That's all we really need. Yeah, except that I was mistaken. Not every communication was going through me. Some people were going directly to my amazing technical staff, who would then put aside whatever it was they were supposed to be working on and start working on the change that was requested by somebody hugely up the food chain than they or I was. But you see, that's one of the reasons why change management is so important. You get to the end of the schedule, you get to the end of the budget, you get to delivering the final product, and everybody wants to know, well, where did the time go? Where did the money go? And if, like that younger version of me, you proudly bring up your change log and it doesn't account for all of the money or all of the time, that's why you need a change management process. The process is simple. Any change that affects the scope, the schedule, the time, or the quality expectations gets submitted on a change request form. They're actually not that complicated. We'll go through a couple of that in a later video, the actual format and changing. Then it gets first thing entered into the change log. And all of those change requests have to go funneling through a single point of contact. It gets logged into the change request log and then is evaluated against any number of criteria. Part of that evaluation process, by the way, includes who has to evaluate it. Some of these things are going to be well within your purview, your power structure. Some of them, we might need to go talk to somebody with a little more political oomph. And others absolutely have to be reviewed by the client. Client meaning whoever is going to get the final deliverable, not necessarily cash changing hands. Just wanted to specify that. Once it's been evaluated and a decision has been made, well, a couple of things have to happen then. One, make sure that everybody involved in the change request knows what the disposition is. Was it approved? Was it deferred? Was it denied? Yeah, I know, deferred. Because sometimes we just need more information. We can't do anything about it right now. And so you go back to the requester and say, based on our assessment and the evaluation done, these are some further points of information that we would like you to clarify before we actually make any final disposition. Perfectly fair, perfectly rational. Then change the plan to accommodate the requested and approved change and execute against the new baseline. Seems simple, doesn't it? The biggest hangup tends to be ahead of time, before anybody's thought of marvelous things that they want to ask you to change. And that is getting everyone to agree to use the change management form. Now, most organizations already have one that's gone through the approval process. So try to find the one that's already been approved by your organization and that everybody knows how to use. More importantly, you want to use one that has fields that already feed into all of your other tracking. I know, it's the IT geek in me sometimes. But it would make life so much easier for everybody concerned if you use a form that's already been through the process. And getting everyone to agree to it, well, that's when your leadership comes into play. Because it's entirely possible that a couple of folks are going to tell you that they don't really need to fill out one of those things every time. Do they? Yes, they do. See the sweet smile? Yeah, well, okay, sometimes it's not so sweet. Very frequently, I have appealed to their ability to lead by example, proving that the change management process is so important to stick to that they will also agree to stick to it. That can be enormously powerful. So, try that. Remind them that sometimes we're going to get some good ideas for Project A 2.0 from the change logs. Sometimes a good idea's time hasn't quite come yet, but it's a darn good idea. But if we don't capture it immediately, if it doesn't make it to the change log, all those good ideas, and by the way, the organization's intellectual capital goes to waste. Does your organization really have creativity and good ideas to waste? No. Making a solid decision, though, means that in your change management form, not only did you document that good idea from one of your team members or from yourself, but you've also started the business case for it. Because in the change management process, you're going to be asked why it's a good idea and how you can make that case for that good idea. So remember, start early. Get it into the team charter, the team agreement that the change management process will be adhered to by everyone. 2, use the tools you already have. They can probably interact with a lot of other tracking mechanisms much more easily than if you try to make one on your own. 3, everybody includes your senior leadership stakeholders. Stakeholders who are senior leadership frequently get pressed for time. Do your best to make sure to accommodate that as you go forward, because the example that they set by adhering to the same agreement that they expect everyone else to adhere to can be pretty powerful. And remember, hold on to those change logs. They're a great source for good ideas whose time simply hasn't come yet. I'm Kimihiro Tsuzimski, and this video was brought to you by the Leadership Driven Project Management Academy. If you like our practical approach and the short lessons, please subscribe, like, comment, or heck, maybe all 3. And if you know someone that you think would get value out of these lessons or any of the other lessons that are in the channel, please forward it to them. Thanks for joining us.